Morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Marketing Crew. I'm sorry if one or two people have been having a challenge getting on. I was on a completely different call, playing music to myself, thinking where on earth has everybody got to? So that's good. Nice, and welcome particularly to Tom Bennett. Nice backdrop there. Very good. I guess you're in tailoring. I like the back of there. It's really good.
Yes,
welcome.
Well, actually,
you'll get the hang of what you'll get the hang of this. We're not like the other networking events that spend 20 minutes introducing themselves and everybody knows everybody anyway. We are here to talk about all manner of marketing activity. So if you're an expert at marketing, you can contribute. If you know very little about marketing or your marketing's not working, then this is the place to be at, because here we openly discuss different ways to reach out to clients, potential clients, different ways to engage with them, to actually make the sale, to retain our relationship and build relationship with clients, and also how to be more effective at networking and turn the networking that you're doing into actual business. Now, last week, we decided to kick the year off, again, recognizing that we're all about marketing, but that we talked about competitors, and the biggest competitor that we've got is ourselves. It's our mindset. It's the way we think about ourselves. It's the way we are concerned about what other people think of us. It's the false illusion that we're not worthy. It's the ups and the downs of being involved in any entrepreneurial business. And we all know it's about ups and downs. The only thing is, we only think it's about us. And so we led the session with a great session on mindset. And unfortunately, Rob couldn't be with us, but he went the extra mile. He took the trouble to actually produce a video that we all watched. And I think you've since seen the discussions. And so I thought for the first 15 minutes, before we go into marketing campaigns, we'd let you bounce ideas or thoughts around off Rob while he's here. Rob, thank you very much for that last week. It really was appreciated. What did you get from what did you glean from the discussions that we had after your presentation?
Well, journals are popular, or the concept of them. I loved the different ideas that came up. I remember Ollie talking about the bullet points, or the bullet journal, actually. The idea of reflecting on the language that we use when we're thinking about ourselves or referring to ourselves, maybe that could be put into a journal, and that's in relation to the feelings and the emotion wheel from the presentation. But like anything, you know, it was kind of planting a seed, and then you guys completely ran with it and went where you wanted to, which was fantastic. And I'm a big fan of, I always refer to a simple nucleus. Maybe this wasn't that simple, but it was a nucleus for a discussion. And I think success for the individual comes when you divert some energy back to yourself. If you're the owner of your business, you're the person that does everything, then it pays to pay attention to yourself. And I was coaching somebody yesterday who's a farmer, and I said, you know, how many hours would you let your tractor run before you grease all the nipples on your tractor and you change all the air filters? And he knew exactly. Oh, it's this many hours. I said, okay, well then imagine you're a tractor. You're going to have to divert some energy back to yourself to make sure you can go off and do this big grand job on your farm. And obviously the farm is a metaphor or analogy for life. So that's what I got from it. I got that you were paying attention to yourselves, maybe independently or more independently of your business, just as taking a more of a Google view, Google Earth view of yourself, stepping back a bit further and looking down.
Good. What about anybody else? I know I had an aha moment during it, but what about anybody else? Has anybody else done anything with that? I know a few people have accessed the templates, but has anybody done anything, you know? Tell you a little, yes, Ollie.
Yeah, I took on board, yeah, definitely what you were saying there, Rob. It was really, really great, your video that you did for us all, and that about spending time, yeah, if we don't recharge ourselves, then we're not much use for other people. And I think it was Andrew's point, actually, about he said that he was going to try and finish early and spend some time every day kind of focusing on himself, or not himself, but personal projects or things that he enjoyed doing. And so, yeah, I definitely took that on board. And so I've tried to claim my Friday evenings back. So rather than kind of, my wife, she sometimes works quite late with kind of clients. And so rather than just working late as well, I'm trying to finish at 5 and have a bit of time, have a, you know, read a mix or whatever, and just kind of, yeah, recharge. I think otherwise, yeah, definitely found, I think a couple of us said last week that, yeah, burnout was probably a quite possible way of going unless we did sort of spend more time doing that. So yeah, definitely got that from your sort of presentation, Rob. So thank you for that.
Hey, no problem. And I think the temptation to carry on working, I again chatted to the same person yesterday. We talked about a German firm that I know of, and they shut the doors at 5:30 in every single way. You cannot access their servers. You cannot receive work emails. Work stops at 5:30. So it's enforced. And that's, I think, quite an interesting concept. So well done for that, looking into that for yourself.
I used to go to a Buddhist retreat in Bradford-on-Avon when I lived in Frome. I went every week for meditation, and the rule was the retreat opened at 7:15 in the evening. The doors opened and they closed at 7:30. And unless you were there within that time, you could not get in. So that was that really taught a great discipline. By the way, Tom, you've got a yellow hand up there. I should have mentioned that we've not used those, but I mean, I've noticed it. But if you do want to speak and say something, we usually put the hand up. I will notice it, and then when the present conversation's finished, I'll come to that person in order. Did you want to contribute something to that? Yes, good.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, I didn't see, obviously, I've only been to your meetings a couple of times, so I didn't know what Rob, but I do know Rob from elsewhere. Yeah. And I mean, something I did notice before Christmas, I'm making a big effort of it this year, is I was just burning myself out all the time, and just trying to work 12 hours, 15 hours a day, and really not seem to get anywhere. I'm a DJ as well, so I've now decided to take an hour every day, turn my record decks on. Oh, so old-fashioned. Turn my record decks on and have a mix on my techno, and just to relax for an hour and then get back to it. And I'm taking Sundays off, I've decided. But that's, not from listening to Rob, but from carrying on from what I assume he probably said. So
that's great.
That's really...
If you actually go onto my LinkedIn profile, or my post, you'll see that I've actually given a link to to Rob's recording. Okay, so cool. You could go back to that. It's very useful.
Yeah, I'll go and have a look at that.
Let me tell you what I found useful. On New Year's Day, my eldest son and his partner have my 2 grandchildren, Finley at 9 and Elodie at 5. Okay, if anybody's got grandchildren or children, you can perhaps picture that. And but it's over 2.5 hours away at St Albans. I hate the motorways because they're boring. And so maybe over the last couple of years, I haven't been over that often. I went over and I stayed over, and it was really great. I spent most of my time playing with the kids, etc. And there was a little story I want to relate. We'd gone for some lunch, and I was remarking on their new dog, Rosie, and what she was eating. And they were talking about the food. Tim was saying the food's good enough for humans. And so Finley, having the bright idea, he said that would be good. He said if we made food that was macaroni tasting or whatever tasting, apple pie tasting. And Tim, being in advertising, he said, well, you can make these little tidbits. You can make these little treats and sell them in the park to all the dog owners. And he thought it was a great idea. End of story. We went back home, and Elodie asked me to make a sign that says bones for sale. Okay, so I made the sign out, didn't know what she was doing. She was obviously playing, she stuck it up. Then she got some little labels that said bones, and she put some other paste around, she'd like a handbag loop, and she looped them over 3 of the dogs' bone chews, put them on plates and disappeared. About 10 minutes later, she called us all up to shop at her bone shop. And we were already into the game. She was telling us the choice of the bones. And I said, oh, I'll have one of those. And she said, I said, how much are they? She said, £5. I said, £5. Anyway, discussion ensued, etc. What did I pick up from that? Finley talked a great talk, but it was Elodie that took some action. You know, so Rob has put that up and has shared those documents, if you like, and only a few have actually taken the action to reflect on it. And all I would say is, especially on Marketing Crew anyway, the challenge is we talk about a lot of things, and talking about it never gets anything done. Actually doing something, which will be the theme of what I'm going to be talking about today. It's doing things. You can have all the ideas under the sun, but it's actually taking action and seeing what works. And what I've got from that, Rob, is I should spend more time with my grandchildren because of the influence a grandfather has. And my eldest son made a remark on that, not in that same way. He said, I'd like to see a lot more of you this year. And so I've decided I'm picking out the times when I'm going to go over. Thanks very much for that. And Anne-Marie, yes.
I have done something. I haven't not done anything. I have been. I've been working on how I talk to myself, because that's a big thing for me. I'm very good at doing, but I'm rubbish at actually telling myself that I'm doing a good job, or whatever. My internal narrative is very negative. So I've been working on that. So I'm doing, it sounds really crazy, and it is a little bit crazy, but I'm doing this self-talk thing every day, where you have your cup of coffee or your cup of tea or whatever, and you spend the time it takes you to drink that, reinforcing the positive messages across a range of things, not just work related, but personal things as well. And I'm trying to do that every single day. So that's what I'm working on.
That's excellent.
That's good.
Fantastic.
That's good. Yes. Nick.
I've done something too as well, Paul, so I thought I'd mention that. I'm good at setting my business goals, but I've never been brilliant at setting my kind of personal goals. And sometimes I've found that the year can just run away, and you find you've done loads of work stuff, but you haven't actually achieved anything that you wanted to do in your personal life. So I've actually kind of set out some things that I want to achieve personally in 2022, and actually some fun stuff as well. So I've actually booked in some things that I want to do, not every month, but things that I want to try and tick off, and social stuff, and seeing more live music, and getting out and catching up with family that I haven't seen for a while. So I'm trying to balance my business goals with some personal stuff as well, and then actually doing it as well. So
I think you've got to, but you have got a plan for it. The reason why we don't take the action or do these things is because when the call ends or a B&I meeting ends or anything, we just get on with life. We get on with the habits we have. We're in a rut. We're in a comfort zone, a rut or whatever. And so shifting out of that is not as easy as we might say. So I know I was going to ask Ollie, do you and your wife, you both work, do you organise a regular date night and put it in the diary?
Yeah, we're pretty strict in terms of booking time, and generally time for just us as well. So we find, time spent with other people and socialising with friends is lovely, but we're also quite good and do make sure we kind of go for a walk together once a week and things like that, and have time that's just us as well. So yeah, we are I think much to our family's amusement that we are, when we say we're busy, we mean that we've got things booked in that's just us. And I think some of our family find that a bit strange that we don't have time available to see them, because we've prioritised just that, like you say, Paul, that time together.
Yeah. I can certainly attest to the fact that in my corporate career, I didn't have those date nights, and I think the relationship suffered. And that's why on the grid that Rob gave us, I thought romance is something I do with a girlfriend, I think. Right, Marcus.
Exercise. I'm going to talk about exercise. I started a couple of months ago a couch to 5K thing where you run from your couch to your couch or something like that. Anyhow, so I've been doing it for a couple of months, and I'm almost finished it. And I thought, well, I wonder when I start running, get to 5K. And my mate said, oh, you're probably doing it already. I thought, oh, no, I'm not. So I looked at my running app or my app, and I discovered I've been running 3 5Ks a week for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm quite pleased about that for a 50-year-old man.
Well done, mate. Well done. That's brilliant.
Yes. So I'm going to enter a race this year, a 5K race.
Do a park run, Marcus.
Get in the park run, yeah.
Yeah.
What's a park run?
But I think Rob will agree with this.
I'll take
it's actually not the running. It's creating the habit to go out and do it. You know, I was out at 6:15 this morning. Wasn't running, but I was out.
I think any habit, if you make it really,
Rob, do you want to add anything to that, Rob?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I think if you're going to start anything, make it the easiest possible win. So when lockdown started first time round, I wanted to get fitter, and I decided to make the easiest thing I could do was to get up a bit earlier and brush my teeth, and that's what I did. So I got up at 5:45 and I brushed my teeth. And then because I brushed my teeth, I was in the bathroom, I washed my face, and then I'm awake. So then I'm downstairs pottering. And the next day I was out walking. And because I chose a really easy win, and I ticked that off, add it to the done list that I talked about, the next step is so much easier. But make the next step really easy. Walk to the end of the road and back, get it done, and reliably do that and build on those really small, easy wins, get them squared away. And before you know it, you'll be doing something which, had someone proposed the 1 kilometer run or the 5K run, you'd be like, oh, I don't know about that. But there's maybe 20 steps between where you are now and whatever you're considering doing. Break it down to something really small and absolutely manageable.
That's right.
Yeah, great. And then, by the way, Marcus, Rod is not very far behind you. Because he's on a program at the moment and taking it in baby steps. So that's good. And I think, and back to Anne-Marie, I think we've got to have other people applaud our efforts. We ought to be mindful of that a bit more. And I know I encourage Rod because I see him more than I see anybody else. But also, I think we've got to look in the mirror and not look for the faults. We've got to look for what we're good at. It's not always as easy, Anne-Marie. I agree with you on that. So what we want to talk about today, and probably because I've invited Ollie and Andrew sometime this month, and we'll arrange that to talk about the role of the website in your marketing and what could be right about it. What little tweaks you can do to make it more effective, and basically understanding the role that the website plays. And maybe after this call, as it ends, we just have a brief discussion about, what we might do there. But I wanted to talk about marketing campaigns. And who here actually regularly or at any time decides to do a marketing campaign? Show of hands. Okay, Andy's not so sure. Probably 40% don't at all. Tom, what you're into very bespoke Savile Row tailoring, and you're not necessarily a marketing person. What campaign are you doing?
I'm not. Well, no, sorry, I don't know if I really paid attention to what you were just saying then for a second. I'm not really working on one at the moment. What I'm trying to do is rewrite my website to make it more sellable, but I'm kind of just still really where I was last time I spoke to you, really, Paul. Just trying to sort of get a few things. I've got a new brand on its way, which Mike Land's just finishing off on. I've had a look at that yesterday. So that all looks nice, and Marcus is going to do some photography for me. And then it's just a case of just trying to work out some words, really, I think, more than anything, and just trying to work out where, how, and what, really. That's where I am at the moment.
Well,
Paul,
I think you'll find today particularly useful. Let's let me just share my screen for a moment, and just lead us through the center part of this discussion, and then we'll open it up for discussion. Where are we? There we are. We can all see that.
Yep.
I'm trying to get my mouse to show me. Come on. I'm trying to get rid of you lot at the end. I can't see the cursor. Anyway, I'm going to carry on with that as it is. Marketing campaigns. What is a marketing campaign? That's the question. I looked it up from a definition point of view. I intuitively know what a campaign is, but it's an organized course of action to promote and sell a product or a service. An organized course of action to promote and sell a product or a service. And the question is, why is that important that we embrace and include marketing campaigns on a regular basis, if not an ongoing basis, in our businesses? Why is that? Why do you think?
I think for me, I'd say it reminds me, that there's an end result that I want from what I'm doing, and that process never ends. It's not like, oh, I've done a bit of marketing today and that's that box ticked. Well, what happens if everyone doesn't look at all of their social media on that particular day? Well, my marketing is useless. So I think reminding myself that it's a constant process and it's going to lead me to what I want. I think that's one thing I'm taking away from that.
Yeah. It's very easy to do, and it's very easy to be busy. And there's some badge to be awarded when we can, when people say, how are you? Oh, I'm very busy. Do we really want to be very busy? I mean, Tom has suggested that he was working 18 hours a day. Is busy something to be proud of? I don't know whether it is. I think it justifies to ourselves. By the way, I can't see any hands above the 6 people that are on the side, so do butt in until I can, while I'm on this.
Can you see me or not?
It's how effective. Sorry?
Can you see me, Paul? So I have a hand up there, but you might not be able to see me.
No, I can't. I can only because I'm on the main screen. I can't see the full lot. So Nick.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the benefits of actually looking at a marketing campaign is it does allow you to be a bit more strategic. It allows you to kind of step back from the kind of day-to-day noise and think, what's the big priority that I've got either for this quarter or for this half? And then to start to actually put a structured plan around all the things you're going to do to achieve that objective, rather than just doing it ad hoc and piecemeal. You're actually thinking, what am I doing on social media? What am I doing on my email marketing? What am I doing on LinkedIn? All the other elements. So you're bringing all the elements together so you've got a really kind of cohesive plan to communicate what you're trying to achieve, whatever that may be. So that's, I think, how I'd approach a marketing campaign.
That's right. Absolutely. I think the challenge is, apart from being busy, busy is the challenge. When we become busy with clients, for instance, Tom right now knows he needs to focus in getting in front of more people that potentially want to buy his stuff. And without knowing what people have done for you or what your plan is, it could be that you're putting everything else in place without talking to people, So what a campaign does is it tries, as Nick says, it pulls everything together to remind us why we're here. We're here to do business. We're here to create sales. And so therefore it organizes, as it says on there, it organizes a course of action rather than, you put some words out, you're suddenly starting to talk to people and you're suddenly busy, and then you're focused on what you're doing for that client, and lead generation and any campaigns go by the wayside. Because we're trying to juggle the limited amount of time we've got. So it's understandable. Yes, Rob.
I just realised this morning I've just been training one of my 2 personal training clients, and as we wrapped up the session, I started marketing to him my workshop starting in February. Now he's not a candidate for it. I don't have that relationship with him, and I don't think I will. But I said I just started telling him about it, and he started asking more information and some quite specific questions. So that's my campaign as well. I think it could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be right in front of the keyboard. Just because I'm never not a coach, if you like, and I can always talk about what I'm doing. It doesn't have to be that perfect moment, because even when I talk about something, it helps me refine ideas in my head. And why not talk to somebody who may be interested or may know somebody who's interested? So the campaign for me, I think now I'm realizing, can be almost anywhere, anytime.
It should be. We all should know. We talk about a call to action. One of the challenges that I see on social media, and I'm only looking at it from one perspective, is a lot of people dive into social media and they're sharing a lot of content and great value, and they're sharing other people's quotes, and they're writing and they're producing videos, etc. But for what purpose? Is that being busy? Is that, if it's to create visibility, then that is measurable. If it's creating more contacts that you're reaching out to, that's measurable. But where does that lead to? It either should be leading to, unless you just want to be socially popular, it either should be leading to either a potential sale, because you're talking to somebody who could use your service, or a potential referral partnership. And therefore, and I'm not saying that they should all do that, but that should be the overall plan. Otherwise, we're wasting our time on social media. I did catch...
Paul? Sorry.
Yeah, of course you can.
Just on the social media thing, so picking up from what Rob's saying from earlier as well, one of the things I'm trying to do as an experiment this month is to post every day of the week, probably apart from Sundays. And just what you're saying there, at the moment I'm trying to do visibility, just get my mug out there, get the information out there. But I had quite an interesting experience the other day. I put a post up, someone who I used to work with at a different company. She works for a law firm, she's a marketing manager there. She commented on it. I know that she left the firm, so I just messaged her to say, oh, hi, great to see you, glad you like that, blah blah blah. And then she told me to get back in touch with that firm because they've got a new marketing person. So I guess it's good to, and then I've got a meeting with this firm tomorrow, so it was a useful interaction. So I guess the point is, if you're going to put stuff out on LinkedIn, be ready to kind of follow up when you get the little bites. Otherwise, like you said, you're just putting stuff out for a laugh, and I don't think that's why we run our businesses. Obviously we like to have fun, but yeah, make it work for you.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's no space for the fun. I think I mentioned it before. Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a very good book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And that was a boxing metaphor for saying the jab was the give, and then ask. Give, ask. Give, call to action. So as long as we have a balance and a strategy within a campaign, in other words, that you know what we're doing. So if you're doing a series of videos, what do you want it to say? Or a post rather, what do you want it to say? What do you want it to lead to? Right. I've got here why, what, and how. The first of all is why we should do a campaign, and I think Rob hit on it. You can either do one-off campaigns, and I know when I was with BNI, January was always a fantastic month for reaching out and having visitor invitations, because most people at the turn of the year, they do New Year resolutions that reflect on what they didn't achieve last year, and they have more optimism for the future. Same way in which gyms are very successful normally, because people realize they've put weight on, and this year it's going to be different. Fact that those gym memberships drop off at the end of the month in most cases, and so there's windows for certain campaigns, and it could very well be that if your nature of your business is for the wedding industry or whatever, there could be certain peak periods for sales, and that's why those sales campaigns take place. So why are you doing it? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? They're the key questions, because what you do is going to be very important. Are you going to do it by a telephone campaign? Are you going to use leaflets and cards to communicate whatever your campaign is about? Do you want a campaign to get new clients? Do you want a campaign to raise your number of followers, like Nathan's talking about? Or do you want a campaign? Is it necessary as part of your marketing to actually have more referral partners? In that case, you could be having a specific campaign to reach out to people in your target that are already in your target audience. I know Marcus and I were talking about this yesterday. And then how are you going to do it? As I say, are you going to do it with leaflets? Are you going to do it with telesales? If you're not, you're going to do it with cold calling. I hate doing that. If I was ever felt a need to do it, and I don't, I would actually get somebody that does enjoy it to actually do that. So you don't always have to do these things yourself. Is it an email campaign? You know, could you do an email campaign? Could you make more use of your LinkedIn contacts? And I'm going to show you a little bit of the way, or your Facebook, your social media contacts. I'm going to show you how you can do that in a minute. So it's, why are you doing it? What are you actually going to do? What are you going to offer? What are you going to lead to? Is it a trial? Will you measure a success as you want more Zoom calls? So you want, i.e., to get in front of more people to be able to pitch your business or discuss how you can help people, because maybe your metrics that you're not speaking to enough people. What call to action? What do you want them to do in that sales process? And again, how are you going to do it? Because there's no right and wrong way. I know Anne-Marie is very, very good in the written word, and it's quite compelling in the way that she writes. And that will certainly appeal to people that like to read stuff. I'm very visual, so I'm very much into video, and I use video a lot in my campaigns, if you like. But even so, you've got to think about, you know, what do I want to say? How do I want to say it? How am I going to get in front of the audience and get them to actually view it or see it? Bit easy with leaflets because you stick it in people's hands, etc. There's no right and wrong way. So whatever you're doing must lead to that. Okay? This is what a salesperson would say, and I make no apologies. You need to look at this as well, whether you consider yourself sales or not. It's the sales pipeline. It's the marketing pipeline. And the more qualified people, the more people actually, you've got to qualify them, the more people you can put through that, the more business you'll do. So the first bit is lead. I've got this form, and I'll send it to everybody if you've not already got it. And the idea is that you can just doodle. You can say, right, where am I going to get my leads from? What is that? You know, what's the audience? And that, when you get the lead, how are you going to connect? You've got to connect with that person. So a lead is somebody that may or may not be interested in that you want to have a conversation with, because you feel you may or may not be able to help them. You've got to find out, how are you going to connect with them? So the connection could be on social media. It could be on your website. More difficult that, Tom, than you think, because we think that websites, and again, Ollie and Andy will hopefully enlighten us to how we can do this. But It's a little bit more difficult on a website because it tends to be one way. Yes, Tom.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I was going to say, no, I appreciate that websites are just a thing. You know, I mean, in my business, it's all word of mouth. You know, and that's where I'm kind of want to try and go towards. But yeah, no, I mean, a website's nice to have. It gives you some more background information. That's how I see it, really. You know,
website's certainly got its place, but
yeah.
it's a lot of people, not necessarily on this call, but a lot of people think the website's going to do the work.
No, I don't think that at all.
And in fact, it'll do part of the work. You're the person who does the work. So the lead requires a connection. At some point, you've got to book an appointment, find a way to be able to speak to that person. Generally, if we're doing business to business, as we are here. And the next bit is to qualify. It's not an assumption that they will, you're only, up to that point, you've made an assumption that they may have issues that are important to them that you can help them with, which is the nature of the sale. So somehow that qualification period is, very, very important, very important. Can be done on a website if and there's ways to do that, which we can discuss separately, but it's generally done on a phone call or a Zoom call. I know I like to lead people to a Zoom call because that way I can ask questions, I can find out a little bit more about where they are now, maybe try and get to find out where they'd like to be and whether I can help them on that journey. The fourth bit is the presentation itself. That is where you're providing the solutions. I don't mean a cold presentation. I mean, by the time you've qualified them and you're able to tailor what you do to help them and make that presentation with confidence that you feel you've got the qualification. And in many cases, in some cases rather, they'll say yes. Sign me up, send me the bill, let's have an invoice, whatever. But in many cases, they won't, and it doesn't mean they're not interested. It does not mean they're not interested. It means either the conversation, it's not important enough at this time. Timing is a great issue. That you haven't really answered all the questions they're looking for, which you may have answered the questions about the service, but they may have questions about you, about your authenticity, about your, you know, whether they can trust you, whether you're as competent as you say you are, etc. And that's why confidence in front of a client is very important, knowing where you're going. They need to have certainty. So that presentation is about that. So you really, because they don't go with it, you must not assume that that's no forever, because, well, you must not do that, because sometime you will need to follow up. Very often you'll need to follow up, and people don't do that very well at all. %82% of sales take place after the 7th touch. Keep remembering that. So in other words, apart from all this juggling, you've got to find a way to stay in touch with people, because people where you've planted a seed for a new suit, a new website, some photography, you've planted that seed, but maybe the timing isn't right. Maybe the relationship that you have with them isn't strong enough. And if you no longer follow up, you've left business to your competitor. No question about it. So that is really key, is to think how, and when you're planning your campaign, how am I going to stay in touch? And then finally, it's collecting a decision. And it's a decision of where we go from here. And sometimes you've got to say to somebody, it doesn't sound as if now is the right time. Would you mind if we stayed in touch? And, you know, sometimes you've got to do that. But you've got to take the initiative to do that and do it. Now, all of this I've covered on other occasions in perhaps a different way. And it's all very logical. I don't think anybody would argue with any of this. If you had this system where people leads, you were coming through, you're making some sort of contact, you're deciding whether they qualify to be in your target audience, whether they qualify for the services you offer or not. The qualification could be to do with money. It could do with timing, whatever. You're sorting as much as they're sorting. And all that process is what it's about. It's what we've got on the top. It's that engagement bit, and it's from audience to sales there. Rob.
I witnessed a colleague yesterday with regards to the decision part of this process. They're already buying from him. There's a next stage that they could purchase. And he kind of called a halt to the decision and said, listen, you've got to make sure this is right for you. We've got all these options. We can do all these different things. But at the end of the day, you must be happy. And I'm noticing that maybe you're not at the point of making a decision. So please do it on your terms when you can give yourself a definite yes or no. And when he did that, I know the impact. The impact is that it increased trust. It tells the client that this person has not got a sales agenda, and they felt so their hand was being held, not leading them down the path of a sale, but it was trust. Yeah. So the decision part, I always say I'd like to get a definite yes or no at a certain point in that sales process. And I tell the client that, and I say, it can be a definite no now, but a yes in 6 months' time. But for today's conversation, I'd like to get a definite yes or no. But again, I tell them that I've got no agenda apart from that. I just want to know right now, because we have to kind of coach in the moment, and it's okay to say no now and come back to me in a month's time or 6 months' time. So that kind of openness, I think, has a role to play.
I think that demonstrates empathy. And it's easier to do that, Rob, when you've got people, a constant stream of people coming through when you've got probably more than you can cope with. And I'm going to show you something in a minute that will give you more connections than you can cope with. It's easier to do that. But when you've only got a few that you're talking to and you need the business, it's easy to become over as being a bit pushy. Tom and I connected about 6 months ago. I know Tom would benefit from what we talk about here. I know he'd benefit from having ongoing access to me to bounce marketing ideas out. I know he'd have great benefit in a subjective view of what he should be doing. Not that he has to take any advantage. And I would like to think he knows I'm not pushy at all, because I have never pushed him. I've stayed in touch. We stayed in touch with a couple of LinkedIn messages. And so because you're in my system to stay in touch. And so I think that is absolutely key, because it doesn't matter to me. I think it matters more you've got to think what is right for that person. And so I like Rob's approach. I use that a lot in, it's okay to say no. And it's remarkably compelling when you do come over. It does say, this person is not pushy. When you say, actually, I'm not sure now's the right time. I did that. I remember doing that with a roofer that had been to the Wincanton B&I meeting. And after the meeting, I was doing the orientation. And I said, why are you here? He said, well, I was invited, and it looks really good. And I said, you're a roofer. Do you have any people working for you? He says, no, it's only me and an assistant. I said, and what level of business have you got at the moment? He said, I haven't got room for much business. I said, I'm not sure this is right for you unless you're going for higher quality jobs and, more expensive jobs, because you'll soon be too busy to take on any more business. So you perhaps don't need B&I. And he took my advice. And the person next to him was listening to that. I can't remember what happened after that, but sometimes you've got to be able to say that, because not everybody is your client, Yeah. Now, that is the challenge we've got. The challenge of reaching out to people and staying in touch. We talked at the beginning of this conversation about habits. And therefore, maybe one of the things we need to reflect on is, how are we building our audience, our network? How are we staying in touch? Are we doing it in a haphazard way? I know what it's like. You suddenly get very busy. You take on a new client, and lead generation and staying in touch sort of goes out the window because we don't have the time, or we feel we don't have the time. And what happens, and this happens a lot with consultants, they take on a couple of clients that are really quite intensive. I know when I first left corporate, that was the case. You're reaching out, you've got that energy, you've got that momentum, you're enjoying it, and you suddenly, because of all that activity, you find clients come to you. You're then working on those clients and you forget that. And that's why consultants have that. That's up and down, because they stop doing what got them those clients in the first place. And there's only a limited amount of time. So we might want to think about, if we can solve that challenge of staying in touch, how we might do that. So the question we've got to say is, what could or should you automate? Because you can't do it all on your own. You've got to have some method of automation. You've got to have some sort of system where these contacts come in, you record them, and your diary. Rebecca contacted me yesterday. She's got a personal project on at the moment. She's taking some time out, and so she won't be with us, but she does want to stay with us. So she said, I said, well, you know, she told me about the project, and I thought it was very good. And I said, look, if you're taking a break out, when do you think you'll have finished your project? She said, end of March. She said, I'd like to come back in April. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll diary to just remind you and contact you. And if you still feel you want to come back, you'll be more than welcome. And she really has enjoyed everything. Why wouldn't I say that? It's already in my system to follow up at the end of March. I just done a couple of clicks, done, out of the way. So that thing, that I can automate follow-up. So what could and should you automate? What is anybody, and again, you're just going to have to yell out, who's got any amount of automation, and what is it?
I've got a few bits at the moment. I'm actually working on this week and next. So at the moment, when someone is actually on board, they become an active project. I'm writing a load of sort of resources to give them about the different stages of, you know, production and post-production, so that they kind of know what's going on and roughly how long things will take, and the process at my end. Because I found last year that a lot of people were kind of getting a bit miffed when, you know, I say like, right, we're going to start editing now, and then they haven't heard from me, you know, a few weeks later. They're like, oh, why is it taking so long? And then I'm having that same conversation about how editing works like 10, 12 times, so it's not very efficient. So I'm kind of using it to replace those conversations that I was having with 10 or 12 different people, and I'm going to make a video and a PDF so people can watch or they can read, and it'll be in their client area, which is another thing that I'm making as well. So that's what I'm going to do with the automation.
So that's prep. That's prep for the project. Is that a standard thing, standard checklist, or is it tailor-made to each client?
It will be a standard one, and I'll know when it's a kind of a special project that does need the kind of, you know, more hands-on approach. But the stages of the project won't change, even if it's a, you know, particularly unique project. You know, there will be pre-production, there will be editing, there will be amends, and then there will be delivery. So to cover those all off with sort of a few email sequences, I think is a better use of my time. Because
and what do you put? And what do you put that into? Is that into Google Docs, or is it a different system?
I've started making a kind of a SharePoint platform for each client. So it's basically a copy and paste of a kind of a template folder structure. I just change the name to the client's name, and then each folder will have all the information about the different stages. And then the email sequence will say, okay, have a look in this folder now because we're doing, I don't know, pre-production. And then there'll be the information there for them.
And is the email sequence in a autoresponder?
Yes, it will be. I think I'll put it through. I'll either do it through my CRM,
okay, all right,
or through something like MailChimp. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Tom, and then I think Nick had a point. Tom,
it's more of a question on the mechanics of this really, as opposed to sort of the content, is how people actually do these automate. You know, you say you automate these callbacks and things. Is it just an automation where it just pops up and tells you to call them, or is it like an automated email, or is it, you know, and how do you schedule all this stuff? Do you use apps? Do you use an analog diary? Or, you know, I mean, I'm a bit old, I've got 55, you know, I'm a bit old. So, you know, I mean, I'm used to old sort of manual diaries and things. I'm just curious how all this is done.
I've got 20 years on you, so don't give me that rubbish about being old. There's two ways. One, when we say automated through email and what they call an autoresponder, and there's a place for that. I'm not suggesting that's for everybody on here.
No. Yeah.
That's pretty good when you're handling lots of leads. When you've got a big campaign, somebody gives you the email address and automatically an email goes, and then another one goes when you've set it to go, and then another one. You can make them fairly personal, but they're not as personal as I think we need to be. And they need a certain amount of talent. So MailChimp would be one of those. Aweber. I have a client that's got a very good bistro cafe on the Mendips, and we have 400 people that have a monthly newsletter. That is all automated. In other words, once they say, keep me informed as to what happened, it goes automatically into a list. Either they type it in or the owner types it in. It immediately gives them a welcome, let them know what they're doing. And every month I get a menu from him. I tart it up and put it in, and I send it out. And I get 56%, average about 54, 56% opens. Phil, any special events, he's got a Robbie. He's got Robbie Burns coming up, a Robbie Burns out. He will sell that out. He doesn't need to advertise that. The newsletter will sell that out.
Right.
So that is all automated. In other words, and that's very simple automation. We do one thing, press go, and not only does it go out automatically to all those people, but they can unsubscribe, and some people do, not many, but I know exactly who's opened it. And there's lots of things we could do on that if we wanted.
Right, yeah.
For instance, he could decide, campaign-wise, if he needed to the business, he could issue a coupon on there to say, cut out this coupon and come along on any Wednesday, any time of the day, and get a free pudding with your main meal. The point is there, he's doing it to his loyal fans. He's not having to advertise it elsewhere. So as a percentage cost, it's quite good. So there's a room for that sort of thing. But otherwise, how are you going to stay in touch? And a lot of people don't even have this conversation. And I know Rod doesn't do tech. He has a diary, and that's fine. If you look at his diary, it's a big A4 diary, and everything goes on there. And I've been in where you've seen a calendar and there's crosses, and like he knows he's got 3 funerals on Friday. You know, you can see all these crosses. They ought to be skull and crossbones, really, but they're just crosses. And so you've got to have a system that works for yourself. The only trouble is that if you don't have any system, you will forget. Because everything else will be overwhelmed, or you'll limit the number of people you end up talking to. We want to be talking to reaching out to as many people as possible. Nick, you had a point, did you?
It wasn't really a point. It was more a case of I think I'm probably quite similar to you, Paul. I've got a CRM that allows me to track my leads. So I know, there's a lot of leads there. Some are hot, some are warm, and some are cold. And I try and engage with them differently depending on what kind of lead I think they are. And I've also automated my onboarding process as well. So I've got specific emails that I can send out to people pre-shoot and post-shoot. So it's kind of trying to automate the whole client process as well. So that I'm really giving my customers a great customer experience. They know exactly what's going to happen at every stage of the process. And it's taken a lot of work to get that set up. And I've created it for all the different kind of genres that I'm photographing. But now it's automated, it kind of works pretty well. So I can activate it really quickly. But always kind of just check over it to make sure it's personalized as well. And it's not just going out and feeling kind of robotic. It needs to feel genuine when it goes out to someone.
I think that's key. Absolutely. Okay, so you're going to decide whether you're going to, whatever system you're going to use. It's not for me to tell you what system you use. You're either going to say, I'm going to do this manually. I'm going to use an autoresponder, but then you'd need to learn how to use it. They're not that difficult, but they are if you've never used one. Or you've got some sort of CRM system, which means customer relationship management system. In other words, it's a way in which you know where you are at any one time. The challenge with the manual one is if you remember that sales pipeline, each day you might have 10 people that are in your pipeline, and they're at different stages of that pipeline. And you've got to, if you're doing it manually, you've got to work that out. You've got to know where you are and what the next step is. So that is quite key. And I've had CRM systems that collect all the data, but don't prompt me to do anything. They don't stimulate me to do anything. I've got to manually operate that CRM system. In many ways, the autoresponder sorts that, because a bit like I invited everybody to this call, after this call, I have a note that tells me Thursday or Friday, click a button, and it automatically sets the sequence of emails up to tell you you're invited to the next meeting 24 hours before and then an hour before. And I don't send those, the personalized, but I don't send those. They're all already automated. I get one as well, you know. So there's different benefits of there. I think the manual bit to a point is pretty good because it allows you to do what Nick said, and that is be very personal. Because I think we are living in a world where we know when something's copied and pasted, or we know when something is automated. And it's okay. I mean, if I sign up for some advice or whatever, and I'm told in advance I'm going to get a series of emails that will help me, I look forward to those emails, I'll read them, etc. But we are overwhelmed with a lot of this stuff. Okay, so what I want to do is to actually share with you a few different ideas that I use. I haven't used this for a while, and I've mentioned it some time ago. I have some software called Leads Gorilla. And essentially what that software does is it will allow me, and it's really not very good for person to consumer, the consumer market, because it reaches out on Google to find businesses, and it can't reach out on Google to find individuals. So what it basically does is it replicates the task of saying, right, I want to get in front of architects within a 20-mile radius of my home or where I want to work. And I can put those parameters in and send it, and it will pull down all of that information. I can then decide if I want to email those people, but also you've got a list. So in other words, you don't have to go paying for a list. That will create the list for you. All right. The person that is doing any lead, and there's nothing wrong with lead generation through list and email list, has actually either bought a list on your behalf or has gathered a list over a while. What you've got to be careful of is that they're not using that same list with everybody else that does what you do. So there's some things to watch out for. But Leads Gorilla can allow you to create your own list. And I used it extensively when I was building for B&I. Funny enough, I've not used it of late, and when I was preparing this, I'm reminded I really ought to use that. So, and you can either then email, or you can pull that information into your data. In other words, to then start to reach out to them on LinkedIn, because I can pull it into a system and it will automatically tell me whether that person's got a LinkedIn account. So I can click that link and then go into the LinkedIn account and make the contact through that method. So that's the first one. I use one CRM. And it's an Irish-based business, and it's the most user-friendly I have come across. It's a great system. It's a very small cost. It allows me to also email from within that system, and I'll show you these things in a second. And for the last 12, 18 months, and sometimes you'll get an email from me, paulcleggett@uk@gmail.com. It'll be from within the one CRM system, because it connects and it holds all the information. And what I like about it, apart from the fact it's got an app and I can mark people I want to phone, and on my app it'll tell me these are the 5 phone calls you need to make, and I need to be prompted to make phone calls. But what I like about it is I make a connection, I record the connection, and it asks me immediately, what's your next step? I've got to make a decision. I either close the conversation or I move it forward to a date and make a note about that. It forces me. And that's what I particularly like about it, because too often we have a conversation with somebody, it results in, a conclusion and nothing, and we don't think, what are we going to do next? So it's a next action thing. And I'll show you that in a second. And this is something I used back in the middle of the year for a different purpose, and I've started to reuse it, because one of my decisions for this year is I need to do what we're talking about here. I need to reach out more in a disciplined fashion and make it a habit. I'm really into habits at the moment. And what I was doing is I go and reach out, get talking to various people, and then a whole week could go out before I was reaching out to anybody new. I was doing exactly, so I know where everybody's coming from, because I'm Mia Cooper. I'm in the same case. And Teamsy could be very useful. I was discussing this with Marcus yesterday, and I'm going to come out of that, and I'm just going to. How do I? That's why. Right. I'm going to come out of that for the moment, and then I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to show you can you see one page CRM?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mark Osborne's got a Grow Media web agency. I've tagged him to stay in touch. You can see I've not done anything since August the 18th. I did. So let's say this is today's date, and my job is to stay in touch. So I make the call. I speak to him. By the way, I can go onto his site and see all the emails that he sent me and I've sent him. I can cover any notes. I can add a deal. That could be where you're doing the prospecting. I can add a call. So if I've made a call, Mark, open. I hate typing when I'm standing up. Open to visiting crew. Let's pretend that's what it says. So yeah. So I can make notes there. I can add a note. But let's say I've stayed in touch. So I tick that as complete. Watch what happens. Next action. Okay. What am I going to do next? So I think, right, I'm going to reach out to him. What day is it today? 11th.
So is this what you did
11th.
To contact me again this time? Is this how it all came up on your screen and everything, was it? Because you said
that is normally how I do that.
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. So in other words, I can stay in touch. I can tag the person. The person is a lead. New connect. I have a tag where I make new connections with people. I get them into this system, and I tag them new connections. So I can go on to any new connections found in 30 days, and I can decide how I follow up. So if, for instance, by the way, I've pulled that information from Mark from Leeds Gorilla, and you'll notice it's got LinkedIn, he's got a Twitter, he's got a Facebook. He's pulled all that information in for me. All right. So I now can say, speak again, and Oh no, that's a tag, sorry. Speak again. All right. And we'll try it on the Thursday, because I know I'm busy until then. It's a good day, right? Okay. So now it's in January the 13th. So I can go into my action stream. A lot of these, Mike Land's there, not heard from Mike. I've not kept this up to date. All right. Rob Stewart, Zoom call Monday, etc. Alexandra arrange one-to-one invite to meeting. Can you see how that can help? Yeah. Now, using this system, I'm way behind on here, but at least I know I can go and I've actually contacted Duncan. I've reached out to Damien, etc. Okay. So that's that system. And it's got a lot of benefits for it, a lot of benefits. They've got a 14-day trial. By all means, try it on CRM. This is what's exciting me at the moment. Can you now see Teamsy?
Yeah.
All right. Now, Teamsy was set up by a business consultant in the States, 20 years experience. I think he recognized the power of habits, and one of the things that we don't do is that staying in touch, following up.
Yeah.
So he's produced some software, and admittedly, to begin with, he'd started a network marketing business with something called Beachbodies, and everybody had told him, go and contact all your, they told him how to do things, go and blast everybody, etc. And he realized through his consultancy that business is about relationships, and that relationships are more important than spewing out loads of stuff, loads of sales pitches. I just connected with somebody on last night, a digital marketing guy, and he reached out to me. I said, I'm happy to, as long as you're not going to pitch me. And I've had a nice email back telling me that no, he isn't. So that's good. But most of the contacts on LinkedIn, you know what they're like. And what you do when you get Teams, and again, it's got a trial, is there's got some really good trains, but it starts off and said, what do you want to earn this year? And what is your average sale? What's your sales point? So you put two figures in, it'll tell you how many prospects you need to be reaching out each day to get that business. So it's a great wake-up call. And even if you only look at it for that purpose, it's got to be good. But what it then does is, what I've put in, by the way, there's two things if you do the trial, it says, are you in a network marketing business or are you in a conventional business? I've asked for the conventional business, not the network marketing, okay? There's only a subtle difference. You'll notice there today's activities, I go on the dashboard today. Today, I've got to reach out to 9 people. I've not reached out to anybody yet. And the concept is doing a power hour. In other words, an hour of activity each day, and I can get through 9 prospects and 6 customers in an hour, doing it the way they suggest. And basically what will happen is I've imported all my data into this system. So I've imported all your details. I've imported people like Tom. And by the way, this is where I use this with Tom. I've imported Facebook, 600 odd contacts in Facebook are automatically in here. And I'm about to import 1,500 LinkedIn customers, LinkedIn connections. So you've got everything in one place. And you'll notice it sets people up with a score of 3 to begin with, but it can be 5 to 1 or to delete. And basically, Steve Twynham, I don't even know who Steve Twynham is, all right? But if I know who Trevor Smith is, so I'm going to skip. These are the prospects I'm supposed to reach out to. It's going to show me 5 at a time. I'm going to skip that for a week. I'll probably cancel that because I don't know who he is. However, Trevor Smith, I do know, all right? And I know Steve Mitchell, I know Dean Davis, I know John Waugh. I haven't spoken to John for ages, okay? So here, I've got Trevor. And now what it wants me to do is to select an activity. And basically what it suggests is, I'm going to do a Facebook message. Now, I can write a Facebook message here, or I can pull up different scripts. Now, these scripts have all been done in a way that is non-salesy. In fact, there's no suggestion, if you're reaching out to people, especially for the first time in ages, you do not make any suggestion of a sale.
Yeah.
We don't like that anyway. You reach out in a pleasant way. So I've called up these. I can say, hi, Jane. Jane is the standard name. You've got to change that. Just stopping by to say hello. How are you? Hope your day is awesome. Right? Connection 2 could be, hi, it's been a while since I checked in with you. How are you? I hope all is going great. Now, you can use those or you can change them. In actual fact, if I go back to that and I look at scripts, you've got your own scripts. I've just done one at the moment, and it's, hi, John. It's been a while since we last spoke, but I hope your Christmas and New Year were enjoyable. How are things with you and the year ahead? That's all. And so what I would do is I would copy that. I then go on to Facebook.
Paul, is it pulling those people up at random, or is it going through them in a certain order?
It's pulling, no, it's going up on random. That's why I've been hesitant to bring in all my LinkedIn contacts, and I may not, because you get a lot of people, you just don't know who they are. So my advice is to bring in people that my advice is to bring in people and then not worry about it too much.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why in a minute. So, okay, so I'm going to look out for Trevor Smith. I'm going to message him.
So you can't do any of this from within inside Teamsy then. You've got to come out and copy and paste sort of thing, really.
Yeah. In other words, it's not automated like that. But that message has gone up to Trevor, okay?
Yeah.
So if I come back to Teamsy, what I should have done is when I brought it in, right? That's where I should have brought it into. And I'll tell you why. So I should have then altered it. This only takes a minute. It takes maybe a minute. So it would take 15 minutes to make 15 contacts. Yeah. And then I'd copy that. The reason I do that is now I log that connect. And that is logged in his back office, in his file, if you like. Yeah. And I'm not looking to follow up anymore. If he replies, I'll get the reply. If he doesn't, that's okay, because I've got more to go at. I'm looking for people who respond back where there's some connection and building. Okay. So can you see how that works?
Paul, now
what I can do is I can...
Sorry, Paul, can I ask a follow-up question on that? Is it clever enough to know that you imported his data from Facebook, and therefore the best way to contact him is on Facebook?
Yeah.
Rather than...
Let's go and look up for Trevor. There's Trevor Smith. There's the message I sent.
Yeah.
If I want, and that's the tag, because I tagged him Facebook. It automatically, if you bring it in on Chrome, it does it in one click and automatically tags them.
So it's keeping the communication where you got the data from.
If he's got any, so your tagging can be quite useful in however you want to categorize that, you know. But for instance, I might decide, well, actually, I've had a conversation with Trevor. I want to follow up. So I can leave myself a talk to Trevor about his diabetes. All right. Select a date. When do I want to do that? I'll do that on Friday. Right. Okay. So that's followed up. That will be followed up on Friday. So if I now go back to my dashboard, you'll notice I've only got 8 left. In other words, I can see progress. And there's something psychological about doing this and feeling as if you're making progress. Okay, you're not making sales, but you're building relationships. Once you've done your 8 there, you then move to customers. Now, funny enough, I've got Anne-Marie there. I can either skip Anne-Marie for a week, but it reminds me, for instance, that I maybe ought to reach out to Anne-Marie outside of these meetings. in your case, it could be your clients. If you haven't many clients at the moment, then you can reset these things. You can say, I haven't any customers. So you can say, right, in that case, I've got room to maybe reach out to 10 or 12 or whatever. Or you could reduce those, because although 9 sounds a little, it will keep you very active in connecting with people because of the people that reply. Okay. And the other thing is to make at least 3 offers. And that's where you actually decide to invite somebody to look at us. If you've got to the conversation to a sale point, your campaign, it's to make that as an offer. So for instance, if it was Anne-Marie, I could decide with Anne-Marie. By the way, I can do all of these things. Video chat, I can record them. Great to have you on the call today. And what I would do is add Anne-Marie. I'd compose it there so I can log it there, and then I go to my email system. Now, what I can do, for instance, my scripts, I can add a new script. So, for instance, I could add a script to Tom to say, it's great to have you in the call today. Would love to have you as a member. Do you realize it's just a fraction over £1 a day to have access to all of this, or whatever? And so I can do that follow, and although that can be automated, and I have it automated elsewhere, it's far better that I do it this way, because I can be very personal to Tom and he'll feel that. Are you with me? Yeah. So I could set up a new script there. So that's now recorded on that. So I'll scrap that on Anne-Marie's. So you get the idea of that. Now, Anne-Marie is down when she was imported as a 3. And that, I think, without going into it now, because it's superfluous, that tells you how many days it will put her back on the list again. But she really is a 5 in more ways than one. And that would mean a more regular contact. You with me? So you get the system, you get the idea about that. But the beauty of that is that you go down your prospects, you stay in touch with your clients, and then you look for follow-ups. And if you look at the follow-ups, I've got Rob Stewart. Reminder about the crew session tomorrow. Mel Burton. Mel's not been on for a few calls. I've actually, let's have a look. Message Mel for a catch-up, not heard back, chase tomorrow. Zoom call next Friday. This is this Friday. So I'll be following up with him then. Tracy Morgan is somebody. Hi, Tracy, how are you? Hope you had a great Christmas and New Year. More to the point, how was the knee operation? She's somebody I met at Business Network. She's on the call next week. The follow-up is for January the 11th after this call. Invite Tracy to the meeting on the 18th. So she'll get I'll book you a place. Simon Lord is a meeting I've got on Wednesday. Tom Bennett, let's have a look at. Hi, Tom, it's been a while since I checked in with you. How are you? Hope you had a great Christmas break. How's this year looking? Paul, that was the message I sent. Send him a follow-up, send him a link to the last meeting and invite to the next. So I've already got a note to actually invite to the next meeting, but moreover, to give you a link to Rob's message, Rob's presentation. Can you see how organized that is? So I've got a call with Richard Kerrison, Dean Holloway. By the way, since yesterday's, Dean Holloway's replied. Catherine Bryan has replied, and we're going to do something together. And Catherine I haven't spoken to for ages. She was one that the system brought in and reminded me, oh yeah, I've not spoken to Catherine for ages. So have a look at Catherine. Hi, Catherine, blah, blah, blah. How are things with you and the family? So I was able to change that. Okay, arrange a Zoom call to discuss relaunching with New Skin. So I think it's a really good system. Like any system, it needs a little bit of getting used to. So you might want to import a few people to begin with. Other dailies that are there, for instance, social posts. So Nathan was talking about deciding how many posts he's going to do in the week. So that's a reminder. Have I done any social posts? No, I haven't. But when I do, I can tick it. Tomorrow, that tick will have gone. So this is reminding you about your other habits, personal development, review your goals, exercise. And by the way, I can add in whatever I want, walk.
Oh, do you not find it confusing running Teamsy with one CRM, having two CRM systems? I think I would struggle to jump between two. Which one do I go to? And
well, in fairness, I've been on this for 5 days, forget the weekend. So I'm really in the process of getting back into this. And Marcus and I were discussing the challenge of staying in touch and having a system. I think this is going to be, there's certain things I like about one CRM. I wasn't trying to, I don't think I can work both. I can perhaps use one CRM to send the email. I tend to do it through that, and that's fine. I've always liked the fact that you can call up templated emails that you can personalize, but you can do that here. So in other words, I might not need one CRM. I might just do that in Gmail or wherever. So you're absolutely right. I don't think I can work both, certainly not on following up, but this is far easier to follow. Because I tell you why I think it is, because it forces me to reach out to people I'd forgotten, like John Law, great BNI member in Swindon. So if I contact John, it will be, how was your Christmas? How's things with you? And it's amazing what comes back. In fact, if I go back to, let me just, this was Catherine. How are things? That was the email. Immediately, hi Paul, lovely to hear from you. How are you? Yes, thank you. We had a lovely break. Did you? In other words, a conversation. All is well, thank you. My business has been up and down, and to be honest, blah, 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 blah. And she's re-engaging with New Skin. She does, she's a specialist on Instagram and helps people with Instagram. And then how are you doing? More to the point, what are you working on? Well, I've been busy with Marketing Crew. Dion knows all about it. It's a weekly blah, 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 blah. And then I said, why don't we jump on a Zoom call and compare notes? Oh, definitely. That would be lovely. I'd love to hear what your thoughts you have, blah, blah, blah. When are you free? In fact, I'm free now, if you are. And then she'd seen some post I'd done. We had a Zoom call straight away. You can be that quick. Now, if you'd have asked me at the beginning of yesterday before this system, Catherine would be miles away from my mind, what's his name? Dean Holloway. This is interesting. This is one of the other ones. Wrong message. I think Dean was on LinkedIn. Anyway, I'm not going to race around doing that. Dean was on LinkedIn. He told me that business has been very good last year, but he still needs more leads. His business had increased by 42%. I said, that's brilliant. Out of curiosity, what did you do to get that lead, to get that increase? In other words, I had a meaningful conversation, and I'm not even talking about what I'm doing. I'm interested in him. Can you see how that can progress? So, so there you are. I've realized we're at the top of the session there. So any comments on that? I'm not saying you should do it. There's nothing in it for me.
Yeah, I was just going to
Sorry.
say, I mean, is it worth me getting one of these in now and having a play with it, or is, I don't really have anything to put in there at the moment. It's just knowing which ones to use.
I think it's just knowing which ones to use. My suggestion, Tom, is to decide what your strategy is going to be. Going back to what we're talking about here, decide that first. And you talked about networking, word of mouth. The question I would ask of you off this call, and I'm more than happy to have another Zoom call with you, is to say, so how are you developing that as a strategy?
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you why, because if that's the biggest source, you need a strategy for it, not just networking events.
Yeah.
You need a strategy. And the trouble is, you can be easily pulled into saying you should be doing this and you should be doing that. But I've heard you networking and referrals and introductions. So who should you be networking with? Who should be surrounding? The trouble is with a big network that you can go to, for many, it's an audience, and it shouldn't be. It should be collaboration. It should be people working closely together. And that's what I think, that's a way I would pursue with you. I don't know whether,
as I said in that email, I'm going to tie up with a guy called Alistair. I don't know if you know Alistair Johnson, but he's a lead generator, which I'm going to work with at some point. So we can, and then we've kind of developed a letter that I can write, not a print-typed one, a handwritten kind of thing, to CEOs and accountants and things. That's cool. I meant to say that earlier. I think it's just come back up in my mind again.
You know what? I think that that is pretty good as long as you've got a deep pocket and a long time.
Yeah.
Because to take somebody from cold to warm and whatever, and in the meantime to qualify people takes a lot of time and it can be disheartening. That's the only problem. I would want to know, have you exploited your existing contacts? Anyway, what I would, I'm more than happy to have a separate call and really ask you some searching questions. Separate from that. So if I can just go around very quickly, Nick, just a parting shots from you. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I liked what you talked about, whether you use that piece of software that you've just taken through Teamsy, Paul. It's about the habit, isn't it? And whether you do it with a piece of software or whether you structure it in a different way, that habit of reaching out to people and creating conversations, being non-salesy, being collaborative, it's not going to happen overnight, but you're moving the dial in the right direction. And I think as long as you're clear who you're talking to and you're talking to the right people, it's a brilliant way to kind of manage and plan the year. So yeah, thank you. And it's a really good reminder.
I've admitted I'm not used to having a system where I reach out to people in a habitual daily basis. And so the first time I used this, which was Thursday, Friday, I did it first thing, got it out of the way. Yesterday, it was about 3-4 o'clock and I realized I hadn't done it. So I did it quickly. And I've got Catherine, Dean on LinkedIn and a couple more. I can't remember who they are. I'd have missed those. In other words, I now know, and after this call, when I've started the recording, to edit it, I'll go on there and I'll reach out. And I can decide who I reach out. I don't, because as they come up, I don't have to, I can just put them forward or delete them or whatever. But the minute I see somebody I recognize, haven't spoken to them for ages, and that way you've got an opportunity to start the thing. So there's the benefit, it becomes the habit. Andy, what about you?
Like I said, it was a good thing to jog, how you use those bits of software. I've got several things within the CRM I use and the to-do lists that I'd get daily tasks pop up in my menu as soon as I fire up the computer. So done in a slightly different way, but it's a case of making sure you do those things in a repetitive way to make sure you actually keep doing them to actually get the benefit of them. So yeah, so making so many contacts a day, etc., etc. Yeah. I
think tasks, sometimes we end up doing things being busy and it doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything more important for me than reaching out to people, because I know when I reach out to people I haven't spoken to in ages, I'm going to get responses and I can have conversations. Martin.
Okay, yeah, it's again, it kind of hit the nail on the head. So this sort of, this is something I'm very conscious of at the moment, of trying to streamline the process and just reach out on a more consistent basis. But also, I think that you don't have to be perfect. I always think, oh, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then you don't send anything because whereas you're sort of it's just simple messages, and it's better to like say something than just, wait and think that you've got to say the perfect thing, I think,
I think also what can stop us, Martin, is to feel we've got to sell something. We've got to be salesy, because that's in the back of our mind. And what this best-based system is no, just take it back. It's just about, business is about relationships. Let's go and build some, Ollie.
Yeah, that was brilliant, Paul. I really enjoyed that. It's, mind me, I've got quite a few leads that were looking for new websites this year that want to kind of keep in touch with, and in that gentle way that you sort of showed there, Paul, rather than kind of, have you thought any more about your website, but just more of a kind of, how's it going type thing. Also reminded me, but where I used to work, people would get an email once a year with an invoice for their hosting, and they didn't have any other contact throughout the year. And people used to just find that really a real turn off. They get one email with a demand for money once a year and no kind of contact in between. So it's something I'm trying to, before Christmas, I set up MailChimp and using that a bit. But also I think what you've shown there, Paul, is just that kind of, it doesn't take long to kind of have a list of 5 clients a day that you just send a quick message to and check in with them. So yeah, that was a real good reminder about that, Paul.
You can import contacts on a one, it doesn't have to be a big file. All those lists, you could do them one at a time, and then just say, right, well, that's my target date when the person was interested. But in the meantime, I'll do follow-ups end of each month with some content or whatever you decide. And you can actually put that down into your own scripts and use it with, and then you can add a bit, or not. Anne-Marie.
Just the same as everyone else, really, I think. Like Martin, my processes aren't as good as they ought to be. So really, it's just figuring out the best way to do that and actually making it happen. So very useful. Thank you very much.
I'm not suggesting you do any of these things, because remember that the whole thing was about having, that's why we need to continue the conversation of lead generation and campaigns. It's how you're managing it. And, if you want to do it manually, that's fine. But there's technology out there that is relatively simple to use that will help you in that process. All of that is of no consequence. It's about you engaging with people and having conversations and being human with people and non-pushy. Andrew.
Yeah, I think one of the real hidden advantages of this as well, if you systematize that type of stuff like with Teamsy, as well as what we know we can do with CRMs, it also sets you up to grow your business, because that means that you can bring in a virtual assistant or whatever to then start handing off those types of tasks. So you're setting yourself up to really grow your business in a meaningful way, as well as helping yourself out in the short term of being less busy and more efficient.
Yeah. I think also the dashboard focuses you on business every day. Yeah. In other words, it's not stop go. It's only a small amount. You can reduce it to 30 minutes if, but you can do it, and you are building relationship, building your network, etc. And to me, I may even ditch one CRM, because I agree with Nick. I can't manage both. There's 14 days trial on that. There's no affiliate program or anything like that. So just go to teamsy.com. It's $29 a month. But if before the trial ends, you decide to go on a monthly subscription or a yearly subscription, it drops to $19.95, which is about £14 or something. I mean, frankly, it's neither here nor there in terms of reaching out and the business that you can get. And finally, Tom, your feeling about today's meeting?
Oh, great. I've learned a lot to think about, really. It's just all the, this is the whole thing that I have the real problem with in my head, because of my autism and what have you. I find that the talking to people and the following up I have these weird barriers. It's like opening post. I have a real problem with that as well. So this has been really helpful, really useful. We'll definitely talk afterwards at some point.
Okay.
Cheers, guys. Thanks.
Let's do that. Let's arrange for something later on. If I can just keep hold of Ollie and Andrew and say cheerio to everybody else.
Yeah.
See you all next week.
Thanks, Paul. Cheers.